A little game called Project Mix has been showing up in my feed a lot lately. It's what the developers are calling a cyberpunk anime visual novel / bartending simulator. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect to cover a game with that description on this channel. Honestly, the only anime game I've ever played is Persona 5, and that took me like 4 years to finish. But this charming little VR game has won me over. As of right now, the only playable portion of Project Mix is a free concept demo available on Steam. Just a couple days before this video is set to go up, the developer launched a Kickstarter for the game, and it blew through their funding goal in 54 minutes. Now, normally, I would never cover a game that is just barely getting into production, and we'll get into a bigger conversation about that later in the video. But first, I just want to explain why this little anime visual novel has caught my attention. Because I'm sure that most people, like myself, hear the phrase visual novel and immediately picture some kind of cheap freeware game with static drawings. It's safe to say that even in its demo form, I think that Project Mix exceeds that expectation, and their vision for the game seems even more promising if they can stick the landing. Let's just get a point of contention out of the way up front. Project Mix wears its inspiration on its sleeve. From the description alone, some of you might be quick to point out how similar it sounds to another indie bartending game called Valhalla. It's true, both in concept and execution, that Project Mix borrows heavily from Valhalla, and the developers are very open about it. The core gameplay in Project Mix, at least in the current demo, consists of the bartending portion. You play as Roan, a young former Triad member, now working as a bartender alongside your boss and owner of the bar, Valencia. Just like Valhalla, patrons come into the bar to share their stories or troubles while you serve up drinks. It could be something as simple as pouring a beer, or something more complex like mixing a cocktail that fits their mood. The drinks and choices you make in conversation impact the direction of those conversations. They could end up sharing more with you or get uncomfortable and share less. Outside of the bar is where Project Mix really starts to separate itself and show another of its major influences, Persona. In the Persona games, social links are an important part of gameplay that can be improved by expanding your relationship with other characters in the game. You do this through hangouts, where you slowly get more information about their lives. You do get a little taste of it in the demo, but that style of character interaction appears to be the other big portion of gameplay that will make up Project Mix. The characters you meet all have their own stories to tell, and as you grow in your relationships, more will be revealed, all against the backdrop of your own story. Now, a lot of this is speculative based on the vision set by the developers. We only get a small sliver of it in the available demo. They're pitching a 6-hour story-driven adventure through the seedy underbelly of a cyberpunk anime city with a major focus on character relationships, but all of that still remains to be seen. In the demo, the real standout for me is in its presentation. Something about this just feels right. The characters, writing, world, and lighting are so spot on, and they nail the aesthetic of those 80s and 90s anime that I've fallen in love with. Most of my content discusses player presence because of the perspective in VR, and as I've played through this, I couldn't help but feel immersed, already wrapped up in the characters' lives, even though we only shared a few lines of dialogue. The locations, although limited, feel appropriately worn down, and don't even get me started on the soundtrack. It is perfect. Again, a lot remains to be seen. I think this looks promising, but we won't know until late next year when the game is planned for release. So let's get real for a second. Like I mentioned at the top, as of publishing this video, the developers are actively raising money through Kickstarter. They did hit their funding goal in about an hour and have started chipping away at some really big stretch goals like bringing in voice actors. I want to be very clear that in no way am I recommending anyone should go donate to this or any other project. There are Kickstarter success stories, but there are also far more stories of campaigns failing to deliver anything. I say this from experience, having backed projects in the past that never went anywhere, and I caution anyone not prepared to lose their investment should this project fail to pan out. What I am here to say, however, is that for all the reasons I've talked about in this video, I see a ton of promise in what this game could become. I'm already sold based on what I've seen, and now I'm really curious what a full release looks like. It doesn't take long poking around the developer's Discord server to see that there are some really passionate people behind this project. For anyone paying attention to the gaming industry these days, there is an ongoing seismic shift happening. It seems like every week, big studios are going through mass layoffs or closing their doors entirely. Meanwhile, small passionate individuals and teams are creating some of the top gaming experiences in the past couple of years, like Balatro and Claire Obscure Expedition 33. As VR players go, we're no strangers to indie games. They make up the vast majority of native VR content we get. I know that this game isn't for everyone, but I think it might be for me. So this time, I'm taking the risk to put my money where my mouth is, because I want this to exist and I want to support the passionate people setting out to make it, even if that means I lose it all, because I'm kind of done letting shareholder value dictate what kind of games I get to play. But that is a decision that we each have to make for ourselves. I don't know about you guys, but I'm still getting GTA 6. If you think Project Mix looks interesting to you, I recommend you go check out the demo on Steam, or jump in their Discord to hear about the vision for the game. I'll include all of the important links in my description, but I want to hear from you guys. I want to know if this seems like a project you'd be interested in, or if you've already played the demo, what were your thoughts? And how are you guys feeling about the gaming industry as a whole right now? I feel like VR players are just always starved for content, but it really does seem like small indie projects are the most interesting things coming out across the gaming landscape these days. But let me know in the comments what you think. As always, if you made it to the end of the video, maybe consider subscribing if you aren't already, and hitting that like button to support the channel. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.